Hello, everybody. Miracle here with Miracle Quantum Healing. And the Masters really wanted me to kind of step into this moment and talk about the inner child. This is something that I personally have been navigating my entire existence, to be honest with you. I've kind of always known that my childhood was not necessarily bad or wrong. However, I've always known that there was something more hidden behind what I had experienced as a child. Um, and as I sit and I evolve and I meditate and I expand and I grow myself personally along my own journey, I see the reflection of people too struggling with the inner child, right? Um, I've seen people struggling with the inner child and how it plays out in their past lives because of how their current life is. There's a lot of questions surrounding, why is what is happening to me, and how do I get it to stop? How do I change it? Um, where is it coming from? Why can't I figure it out? And something that I really, 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 really sat with just personally in my own journey is, where in your reality are you replaying something from your childhood that you may not even be aware of? See, when we're children in this lifetime, remember, we are here presently. No past lives, no parallel lives. Your consciousness is here right now. And when you sit with that, this moment is what truly exists within time. Everything else is just there. Their memories, their thought forms, their waves, their frequency patterns, vibrations. These are all of the aspects within this earthly existence, within this multidimensional plane that you have resided. Now, maybe the question is, what do I not remember from this lifetime? What have I tried to forget from this lifetime that I'm currently living that may be affecting me? Something that you may have thought you dealt with all the way. And it could be something small, right? I found that our inner child isn't just our inner child, right? Maybe there's a moment in public school where you got picked on. Maybe there's a moment at home where your mom or your dad was dealing with something and they, without you even realizing it, without them even realizing it, because they were dealing with their own things, they pushed you aside to put whatever they thought stress in front of you, causing you to second guess yourself, right? See, that's subliminal. And the thing is, what are the subliminal messages that you were given within your entire life that are in the matrix, within society, within culture, that's being reverberated constantly? What are those things from your childhood that you're seeing right now? See, the last like 3 or 4 months, I've been having these interesting moments where stuff from my childhood has been I've been being it's been triggered, like thoughts and memories and stuff, and I'm like, I don't where's that coming from, right? And when you sit back, you realize that the whole system that we've been raised in is causing us to be triggered because that's how it's programmed. So what's the root in the inner child? It's the program itself. So how are you programmed to react, to interact, to move about reality? right? Where is it within you? What behaviors, what thoughts, what reactions that you may not be projecting out, but you're internalizing some way? What are those things telling you? It's the mind that's trying to get our attention at this point. The inner child is attached to the solar plexus. What's the solar plexus doubled? 3, 6. I've found to master your inner child, to master your mind, to master your soul, to ultimately master you, you have to figure out how you are programmed. So if something triggers you, instead of being like, oh, the trigger needs to change, maybe look at yourself and be like, how can I respond to this trigger differently? Maybe the trigger won't happen. And inner child trauma puts us in this victim identity because, speaking for myself too here, like, as a child, I was neglected very much. I was abandoned very often. I was alone most of the time. I've told my wife before, like, some things that I've had to do, and you're like, what? At 5 years old? 5 years old, right? 4 or 5 years old. I'm making my mom food and myself food. I'm making trips to the convenience store to pick her up 2 liters of soda and cigarettes at 5, riding a bike down there. So just sit with that, right? Like, I love my mom to death. Literally, she's no longer with us, but she's here in spirit. Hence why I'm talking about this. She didn't know any better. She was struggling. And if I were to look back on that situation, I could very well hold resentment there and be like, Mom, you abandoned me, you neglected me, I had to take care of you. And I've been there. I felt that way about my mother for a very long time. Like, I had to take care of her. Like, I was the parent. Because if I wasn't, like, when I was living with her, because mind you, like, I bounced around a lot as well, like, when I was living with her, we were like friends. It wasn't like a parental, like child relationship. Like, we were in it together. Like, this was something we chose to do together. Like, that's how it always was. And once I got to a certain age, everything around me told me that what had happened to me was wrong. And in a sense, it, like, yeah, it was. And I'm not going to negate that. But, like, I've also sat with the wrongness that it could have been, and understanding that the wholeness that it truly is the lessons to teach me, like, hey, no matter what, no matter what, it is not like that, right? And to go a step further, we are, I can hear a bird, sorry. um, we're placed in this position where forgiveness sets not just someone else free, but ourselves. Because my childhood trauma, what happened to me as a child, yeah, that happened. But afterwards, right, like 20 years old, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, how I felt, how I interact with the world, that was on me. Now, granted, I never was taught how to emotionally process things properly because of, this system or that system, or how it should be, or this way, or not talking about it. The South has a lot of different views on things like that. Like, we didn't talk about that. You know, I got my ass whooped. We didn't talk about that. It was not a bad thing. But when you look back as an adult and you see that my pants were pulled down, I was bent over, and someone cut me open with a switch and made me bleed because they thought that what I had done was wrong, when in reality I was just a child trying to figure out life. You sit back and you look at it like that, you're like, oh, that actually was abuse. Like, yeah, like, I had to go to a holly bush, pick a switch, and oftentimes, like, welts and bruises from belts, like, things like that. That's trauma that in the South is not talked about. but it's trauma. Getting your ass whooped is not a like violence is not an answer to someone learning life, yet it is embedded in our culture. And then on top of that, we started saying, okay, well, we can't beat the kids anymore. So that's when the emotional shit stepped in, right? Because social services started, like stuff like that, where you gaslight your children and you like, and I'm not like this is an infamous you like not pointing a finger at anybody in particular watching this video, just like facts, like how did you interact with your parents and how did they interact with you, and think about those interactions. That was what programmed you to interact with reality. Look at the relationship you have with your parents. How is it? What is it like? And be truthful about it. Like be really honest. I've been sitting since my mom's passed away, been sitting with the fact that I haven't really talked to her in the past year. And I told her before I moved, because I knew what was coming. I knew where I was going. I knew where I was headed. And I told her, I was like, Mom, you need to get out of your situation. It is not healthy for you. And she didn't listen, and that is okay. It's not my place to enforce something like that upon her. Yet with that same thing, she was repeating a cycle that she couldn't get out of. And because she repeated that cycle, I was there present with her, but she didn't want to change her behavior, didn't want to get herself out of the situation. She wanted something to miraculously save her. She ultimately died within her own suffering. And that's not to say like that's not to negate her life or any of that, because it was beautiful. She taught me so much. Like I I'm still trying to figure out how to put it all together to tell people about it, because it was so much. I experienced so much as a child. Running from like I was with my mom when she was running from the cops, in the car running from the cops. She dropped me off at some random dude's house that then like tried to sexually molest me, and I had already been at that point sexually molested, so I was like not about the shit. So like even I don't even know the guy, and I've forgiven him, because who the like he probably was on drugs like my mom was. And it's just like people do really dumb things, and it's not to say that it's right or that it's wrong, but to say that we don't have the place to judge them for what they did do, and understand that they had their own reason, whether we agree with it or not, and just let them live and forgive them so they can forgive themselves, because ultimately life is a gift. And until you realize life is a gift, you're gonna treat it haphazardly. And that's what they've done with our inner child, is they've given us this system and not told us how to use it, which is part of the system, part of the reason, it's part of the whole evolution. But now here we are sitting here being able to reprogram the very thing that they're also trying to destroy and dismantle again and again and again, because now's the time. We're at that period where things are aligning, and it's now or never. But the thing is, we have free will and choice where we put our focus and what we do with it. And so when it comes to our inner child and what that truly is all about, it's about us finding ourselves, about us being authentic, regardless of what any external source may or may not think. It's about being me personally, right? Trans. But I don't even identify that as that anymore. I don't identify with any gender, with any aspect of biological sex. I just am. And the body that I have is the body that I have. And I don't want to change it, and I'm not going to do anything to it. I'm going to exist within it and honor it as it is. And that brings me, like, I'm going to make a video about dysphoria as well, and within the trans community, and not just dysphoria within the trans community, but let's talk about humans and being dysphoric within our bodies because we don't understand our soul. Let's talk about that, because that's where the trans issues really start when it comes to that. But I digress. It also comes to the inner child. Like, why do you think so many people right now are like, what the hell? They don't get their soul. They don't understand what the fuck the soul is. They're sitting there and they're like, all right, I got all this shit. I got everything. But what the fuck? And it's because they're scared of their mind and scared of really sitting with, why do you feel like you want to kill somebody? It's okay to have that feeling. I've felt that way about people wanting to kill them, wanting to commit suicide, wanting to blow things up. I still have those thoughts sometimes. They come in, and it's a natural evolution of our soul to observe, because the reason that thought is there is because something within your external reality is triggering it, trying to get you to put attention there so you can transmute it, transfigure your reality, and move forward so that thought no longer comes within. Because if you resist the thought stays, and it'll come back, and it'll keep coming back, and it'll keep coming back until you're crazy inside. Because you won't look at the one thing that it's trying to get you to look at. And that's the big thing with the inner child, is no one wants to look at our mom and our dad and be like, you did this, like it's true, like this happened, and still be able to love them. Like that's the hard part. Be like, you gave me life, and you also kind of fucked me up a little bit, but it's okay because I love you, and we're all learning, and that's how it goes. So yeah, this is gonna be like a random like video on YouTube, just because I felt really, really guided to share it, especially on Flow Friday. Like, I'm shooting this in the moment. Like, when I said that, it was 16:42 on the clock. So, yeah, just love yourself, and remember, like, the inner child is its own journey, and you're going to have to parent it like you've never been parented before. And that's just the truth. So that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope that this helps you kind of unlock a little bit more within your own inner child, because I know, I know it is weighing people down. It's in the center of your body. And it's hard to feel grounded when the very root of who you are is kind of jumbled. So let's really reprogram this reptilian brain of ours and kind of just unlock the truth of what's really been going on. All right. Oh, if you're looking to expand your consciousness, Ascension is a lifestyle, and you are the medicine. Hence the whole video, right? You can check more information out at Patreon, Anto High Ascension Academy. I'll kind of put the link in the description below. I do donation-based healings and energy readings and coaching. And the reason that I'm doing that is because I understand that healing, especially within our climate right now, is hard. It's hard to move forward and get the help that you need from the people that you need it to from, sometimes because of where they are at in their own journey. So I do donation-based work for that purpose, because there are going to be some people who can only afford to give me a little bit, or not me, but give a little bit, and there are going to be some people that are going to be able to give more. And that's how it balances itself out. Allow the universe to balance itself out. And that's the reason I do donation-based work, if you're wondering. And I'll probably do another video on it. Just kind of broaden that out so people understand like what it is and why I'm doing it, and kind of why I've moved that way too. So yeah, that's all I have for you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Sending infinite love, infinite light, and infinite movement to you all. Let's break this stanza of time. Namaste.